everyone, to episode 4 of the Alpha Jedi Podcast, your guide to crushing it in the toughest city to date in, Los Angeles. Now, this subject is very near and dear to me because I am a Los Angeles native, and so you hear a lot of the time people are not having the best of things to say about LA and the dating scene out here, from either it's super tough or people are very flaky or it's a very fake city. And so I wanted to dive really into this topic to be able to give you some very useful background into how it all sort of came to be and how this present scene and scape of LA evolved, and then what you can do about it to actually go out there, be really successful, and absolutely totally crush it in the scene here in LA. So strap in. We've got a lot of ground that we're going to be covering in this podcast episode, and there's going to be some really, really good insight for those of you that either live here and are finding the scene to be very challenging, or those of you that are coming out to visit, and this is going to be my guide for you guys on everything that you're going to need to know to maximize your success out here. So without any further ado, let's just dive right into it. Los Angeles, the city of angels. It's a really fun and eclectic town, and you've got a very diverse mix of people here. And so that's one of the things I really like about the city, is that you literally get people from every corner of the planet, every conceivable country and background, and they all come out here, probably because we have the best weather out of anywhere. I mean, it's a fact. The weather in Los Angeles is unbeatable. That's why I continue to stay here, plain and simply because the fact that a standard day is somewhere around 70 degrees with clear skies, that's just unbeatable. I hate winter. I hate the cold. I just am not a fan of it. A couple years back on New Year's Day, went up into the mountains with some buddies just to go see the snow. After 2 minutes, we're like, all right, this is not it. Got to go head to the beach, and went straight to the beach and had lunch on the beach an hour and a half later. So that's the type of options and availability that I love about this city out here. So we'll dive a little bit into sort of the background on the LA culture. And the LA culture is a true mix and hodgepodge of different folks. And as this one girl I was hooking up with coined the term so brilliantly, she said that the problem with LA is that there's this influx of invasive species, or you have a lot of non-native people that have made LA their home, or that are coming into LA, or continuously transplanting themselves from other areas and places in LA. Now, this can be a bit of a con in the sense that you're going to see that a lot of people out here just don't really have a strong sense of, California pride, or like home pride. They're very, proud and have a good, strong sense or ties to where they came from. But, that sense of, this is where I'm from, this is where I belong, this is a city or a place that I take great pride in, and I want to make sure that other people know this. That is definitely missing from Los Angeles because of the sheer amount of people here that are transplants and that aren't actually from the city. So you miss a lot of that sort of hometown pride, but also just that general sense of camaraderie that people from an area or a city have. And I've traveled all over this country. People can say what they want about Texas, but in Texas, that's one of the things I like about that state, is that every city you go to, everyone's got a really, really strong sense of Texas pride and city pride of where they're from. And you just don't have that here in California because no one's really, really from here in LA. So those of us that are kind of natives, one, no one thinks that we're ever from here because I guess the typical LA sort of ness just kind of washes over us. But then two, when you're from here, you do get a sense of pride, and you really want to, show people a good time, but also you have that sense that, hey, we're all here, we're all Californians, and we're hanging out, we all live in this community. So you definitely don't get that when you're dealing with a lot of transplants, because everyone's got their own home that they came from, and that's where their sense of home pride and camaraderie comes from. So that's where you can see a bit of the disconnect in the general sense of how Californians tend to treat other people and treat each other. You got that lack of a home basing because everyone's from somewhere else. So they're basically, visitors that have come and settled into another land, or, colonizers, if you will. So you can't really expect that there would be this strong sense of pride about the place that you currently are colonizing, because home is back hundreds or thousands of miles away. And then also, because we're a West Coast and we've got a good sort of strong beach scene, the West Coast is a lot more relaxed and chill, whereas in New York and the East Coast in general, things are a bit more faster paced, a lot more high strung. Now, the downside of the East Coast style is that things tend to be really high strung and people are really stressed out and wound up for no good reason. But on the other side, when you're trying to get business or anything done, people on the East Coast know that time is of the essence, so they'll get it done. Whereas here in the West Coast, you got a bit of an inverse situation where people are actually really open to ideas and collaborations, but they tend to be a lot more talk than action because there's not a strong pressing sense of urgency in general out here. Again, these are general statements, so if you're sitting there thinking to yourself, well, my buddy who does X, Y, and Z, we struck this up today. Great, that's an exception to the rule, but as a general sense, when you're talking with a lot of people out here, people are very open and very excited about all this stuff, but when it comes to actually doing things, then we'll see how things actually turn out and see if they actually show up. So LA definitely is one of the flakiest cities in the country, and that's part of the cultural reason, is that lack of sense of urgency. But the other thing is that because there's just so many options out here in LA and so much to do and so much other things to explore and people to meet, the options are really limitless. So you've got a strong sense of competition from other options that people just have to them, where in this state you can literally do anything you could think about and more, and it's available to you as long as you're willing to either fight traffic or do a little bit of exploring. So that's another cultural aspect that can be a double-edged sword, where the amount of options are a really awesome and a really great thing that we have, but also it can be a negative thing in the sense that you can be lost in the shuffle, so to speak. So that's a bit about LA. The only other thing that I'll mention culturally wise is that because we have such a large entertainment scene out here, you are getting a lot of people that are coming from all over the world for the entertainment industry. So actors, actresses, models, people that are in the entertainment sphere are all coming out here to the city to pursue that. So you've got a really, really condensed and high population of very attractive people all in one place. And so that's going to set the stage for what we're going to get into at the meat of this podcast, which is how exactly you can play that to your benefit and advantage. So now let's get into how to hack LA now that you have a base understanding of some of the background of LA as well as some of the culture of LA. And so if you're been around in the sphere or red pill aware or game aware, whatever it is that you want to call it, then you know a couple fundamental truths. And one of those fundamental truths is kind of hypergamy, in that women are definitely looking to maximize the best options that they can get. And as men, we definitely are trying to maximize the best options that we can get as well. But here in Los Angeles, you are literally dealing with peak hypergamy, and you will not see it like this on any other level except here. And so that's the biggest hurdle that you're going up against. Just the sheer number of options and competition that you're dealing with. It's utter insanity, where you go to any other city or place and you're not going to find as condensed an amount of competitive forces as you are going to see here. That creates a good challenge and opportunity because you are going head to head with the best of the best. And the advantage that you have if you've been around in the sphere, or at least have some peripheral awareness of hypergamy or game or some of the underlying red pill truths, then you have the mindset advantage because you understand the mechanics and how they work. So because you know how everything works, you can go into the game and you may not technically be the most quote unquote naturally talented player ever to grace the field, but you can be the smartest player and you can outsmart a whole lot of your competition and find plenty of success and opportunity while doing so. So here's going to be some tips for you. One of the tips that you're definitely going to utilize when you are out there and you're trying to date or game is that you want to really leverage mystery and inference as your two most powerful tools that you can use. In this day and age, especially in the social media space, as well as just in LA in general, people are about kind of the flash and the, hey, look at me, and this is what I have going on. I'm so great, this, that, and the other. So you can really utilize and leverage being a bit of a mystery to entice and intrigue people. And it's a great, great way, especially when you're dealing with girls, to get them to be curious about kind of who you are and wonder, all right, what exactly do you have going on? So especially if you find yourself at a lot of high-end events or parties or just kind of out of the town, there's a reason why you're here. You're not just some random Joe Schmo that, just showed up off the street. There is a little bit of that exclusivity factor, which you can definitely play to your advantage. Now, make sure that you keep your sense of mystery that is about you very strong and prominent. And definitely use inference where you don't have to 100% tell your entire life story. And that's actually a really quick way to get yourself in the friend zone. But at the same time, you can leave little bits of tidbits and really stroke the imagination and really get girls thinking like, okay, what's really going on with this guy? Okay, he's in this industry. Okay, what does he do? He must be someone important or someone that has his shit together, or there's just kind of something about him that I can't really put my finger on, but I need to dig a little bit deeper and figure this out. So separate yourself from the crowd by being that guy that's a little bit of a mystery man and can use the power of inference to really spark the imagination. And then you'll find that you don't necessarily need all of the flash or, hey, here's my Bentley over here and I'm about to go pop 6 bottles of Cristal just for the hell of it. Come join me at the table. If that's your style and your game, hey, by all means, go for it, do it, more power to you. But for those of you that aren't in that category, then you definitely want to use mystery as your best tool. Secondly, when it comes to LA, always, always, always have an after party. It doesn't matter if you actually have one or not. Always, always have an after party. And what I mean by that is when you're in LA, everyone wants to go out, everyone wants to hang out, they want to party, they want to, have a good time, but LA closes at 2 a.m. And so that causes a lot of problems and issues for a lot of people because they still want to keep things going. So one of the best and most effective ways to help with your game is to just let people know, oh yeah, I'm going to be out and about doing this, that, and the other, but I got an after party later tonight, I'll hit you up. And an after party, literally all it is a venue where people can hang out, listen to music, and then socialize, drink, and sometimes do drugs or get high. So you can literally use any venue as a venue for an after party. And worst case scenario, the after party can be back at your house. Just make sure that your place is logistically sound as well as it's set up and you have ample resources on hand in order to facilitate an after party. But there's definitely some after hour places that are official legit clubs that stay open until 5 or 6 in the morning, and they don't serve after 2. And there's definitely some off book underground after hour parties that, hey, they keep serving or, anything goes kind of thing, well into the wee hours of the next day, like 6 or 7 a.m. So depending on what your options are or who you definitely want to make sure that you leverage having an after party in your back pocket. And it's a great way to get contact info as well as to entice folks and add to that sense of mystery that you're creating about yourself. So always have an after party. And if you don't officially have one, say you do, and worst case scenario, either link up with someone else to their after party or go back to your place and host the after party. So that leads us into the next tip for you guys, which is to make sure that you keep your logistics on lock. Now, LA has probably some of the worst traffic in the country, and I've been to every city in this country, and I would say that Chicago probably has worse traffic overall than LA, but LA is definitely number 2 or number 3. New York is really crazy bad too, but at least you have the public transportation to get around. I hate public transportation, so I never use it, but that's a whole other side topic. But make sure that you keep your logistics locked in. You want to make sure that anywhere that you're going or bouncing to is going to be within a good 15 to 20 minutes from your house or a place where you can crash and go to after hours. LA can definitely not be your friend when it comes to logistics because of how spread out it is. So you definitely want to make sure that you can pick an area that is most conducive to you. Now, the advantage that comes out of this is that because LA is so spread out, there's so many different areas that are kind of themed differently. So, for example, if you want a cool laid-back beach scene, you can hit up Santa Monica, or you can make your way up to the South Bay, such as Manhattan and Redondo Beach. If you want the high-end, trendy lounge, bar, restaurant scene, then you definitely want to hit up West Hollywood. If you just want the club scene, then there's Hollywood proper, or you can bounce over to certain parts of West Hollywood as well for that. Or you can go to downtown LA for a mix of different options. So there's a lot of different options for you to explore. And so you can pick a neighborhood or area that's most conducive for yourself. Make sure that, again, everything is logistically sound. And because you know about all these different areas, check out and see what's going on in all these different areas. Maybe you start your night in Santa Monica, but you know that there's going to be something really dope happening in West Hollywood. So you could do a little bit of light recruiting or scouting early on in Santa Monica and then bounce over to West Hollywood or bounce into downtown LA. You just want to make sure that if you're leaving a good venue or event, that logistically speaking, it's not going to be like an hour or 2 hours to get to the next spot or venue, because that's going to really kill your momentum. So keep those logistics locked in, and I would definitely recommend picking an area or 2 areas that are close by and kind of knowing what's going on, and then bouncing around in those particular areas. Now, if you live somewhere far that doesn't have a lot going on and you have to make your way out to go find some action and adventure, nothing wrong with that. The challenge for you then is going to be either A, finding just a quick hotel that's close by where you can have your after party or, have a place to hook up in a pinch, or if you have friends in the area that you can stay with that are much closer than where you live, just because sometimes you may live way out in Northridge and there's not a whole lot going on in Northridge, especially at night. So you want to make your way out to downtown or Santa Monica, but it's not exactly like, oh, let me just make this really quick 45-minute drive up the 405 to get back home. So, if you're living in those areas, then you may want to consider either relocating or finding places where you can crash, or just worst case scenario, grabbing a hotel or something for the night. So the next tip for you to help crush LA is you really want to make sure that you put your network to work. You all have friends, you all know people, you even have coworkers and random associates. Hit those people up, see what's going on, pick people's brains about different areas or venues or events or new restaurants or bars or places to try. There's so many different places and things to do out here in LA, and there's so much that other people know about that you aren't aware of. And you want to make sure that when you're out, you're networking. Network with people that you meet out in the bar scene or in the bookstore or wherever. Always be networking, because a high-end club may not be your particular scene. Maybe you just like the local dive bar. Great. You can network with the locals there and find out about a cool grassroots band that's playing out in Griffith Park the following week, which could be a great place to either meet some girls or to take girls to. And you never know what kind of doors can be opened just by the fact that you're being friendly, being sociable, And having a lot of people that you know in a lot of different places really helps and is super conducive because people move around. I had a door guy that I was buddies with that used to manage the door at this one high-end lounge that I really liked. And then I didn't see him for a couple months and then wound up bouncing into this cool spot down in Koreatown. Turns out he was the door guy managing that spot there, and he helped open the place. And so, I just happened to show up randomly. I was like, oh, dude, I know you from before. He's like, yeah, dude, like anytime, just roll through. Also, there's another spot that's in the Miracle Mile area that's really dope. You should definitely check that spot out. Tell him I sent you over there. You'll be good. And so leverage that connection right there. And then I've also had times where, befriended a manager at a lounge and then wound up trying to figure out what plans were for Halloween. And then he hit me up like, hey, dude, I'm rolling over to Diddy's party over at this club. Come out. It'll be a dope time. And so wound up going to Diddy's Halloween party because I befriended this guy who is the manager of this lounge. So befriend people, make sure that your network is working for you. And it's a great way, one, to not only get venues locked down so that way you can just go in and everyone knows who you are and you can get hooked up with getting past lines or maybe a free drink or whatever. But also it's just plain and simple, really good networking. It's good to know a lot of people because you can use that to your advantage and you can also provide value for them. Because if you're continuously introducing yourself or taking care of all the bartenders or tipping well, or you're bringing people of high value into their establishment that is funding their business and keeping them going, they're going to take notice and they're going to appreciate that. So networking is probably a podcast all on its own, but for now, we'll just leave it at leverage your network, put it to work, and you'll be good. And in LA, it's a big city, but it's also a very small city at the same time. So a lot of people know a lot of different people, and especially the nightlife scene, they all know each other. It's a really tiny community, but there's a lot of really cool stuff that can come out of it. So make sure that you are networking with people. And network with the right people. Network with the bartenders, network with the managers, network with the valets, with the door guys. These are the people that are going to have the keys to the kingdom that you're looking to build for yourself. So that's also going to be a really helpful way to help you stand out in this really competitive field where you're the guy that gets to show up and gets past the line or gets hooked up or gets the VIP treatment, and you don't have to go around flashing a bunch of cash in front of everybody and having to leverage the fact that you're basically a guy that has money and is just willing to give it away to anybody. So that goes far for your value and kind of who you are and what you're about. And as I mentioned before, kind of plays back into your mystery factor where it's like, all right, who is this guy who just shows up, gets in or gets what he wants or, gets to act like he owns the place. Does he actually own the place? Because he's not running around flashing his cash or trying to be a show off. That's the way you want to go. And that's what you want to keep in mind when you're out and about on the town. So the next tip is you want to make sure that you foster multiple options for yourself. And this is something that we as guys tend to forget. Girls are naturally just much better players than guys are. They're really good at being able to juggle multiple options and court multiple suitors while keeping a couple guys on the back burner for in case if the guy they really are excited about doesn't work out. And so as a guy, you want to make sure that you're fostering multiple options for yourself. Whether it's multiple different venues that you can hit up, whether it's multiple girls that you could see, whether it's different parties or events that you can go to, keep your options open so that way you're flexible. And then if something falls through or someone flakes or bails out, your night's not ruined. You have plenty of other things that you can do. And so I've seen it a lot of times where, I'll go with a buddy and we go to a spot and it's kind of light and not much is happening, or, he's supposed to be with a chick at some place and cancels on him and then suddenly his whole night's ruined and he's like, oh, I'm just going to call it. Like, no, if the one area is dead, then bounce to a different spot. Culver City's not, happening, go to downtown LA. And if nothing's going on over there, then bounce over to Hollywood. And if nothing's happening there, then try and bounce over to West Hollywood. But look for something. Keep those options open, and it'll not only give you better perspective on things, and because you know that your time is valuable, you're going to go with what's going to be the best use of your time, as opposed to just going somewhere for the hell of going to it because it's the only thing you had going on and you wind up wasting your time. Now, the last tip that I have for you is that you should refine your game as you would anywhere else. Now, if you're in, a small town in Texas, or you're in Idaho, or you're in New York, or you're even in San Francisco, and you're working on your game, you want to be continuously refining it, honing it, figuring out what works for you. And that's no different here in LA. And it's actually much more critically important that you get it refined and honed here in LA. Now, LA is the Olympics of dating. You are running around with the best of the best, and you've also got a just large contingent and competitive field. But the beauty of the training grounds that is LA is that if your game is semi-decent out here, you can literally go anywhere else in the country and absolutely crush it. I mean, guys, if you live in LA and you have made the trip down to San Diego, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is night and day difference. It is junior league ball down in San Diego compared to what it is out here in LA. And me personally, having been fortunate to travel a lot and see so much of this fantastic country, I can personally assure you that when you get a good, decent groove or flow out here in Los Angeles, you go anywhere else in the country and it's just like junior league ball. It is fishing with dynamite. It's not even fair. You basically develop kind of superpowers where you get immune to, that one super hot girl that every guy in the, area is totally fawning over, but, she's got attitude because she's allowed to, and you're just like, whatever. If you came back to LA, you'd be average. I don't have to deal with it. It's very empowering, and it's also very freeing to be able to run at a really high level with an intense amount of competition, and then you go anywhere else, and then the doors just seem to open and the floodgates are just laid out. It is so much more straightforward and so much simpler elsewhere, just because, again, in LA, you aren't dealing with the fierce amount of competition that you have out here. For those of you guys that are out here grinding, hustling, keep up, keep at it, figure out what works for you. But just also know that you should definitely travel outside of LA, go find some other cities, and you'll definitely find that it is a much easier time anywhere else than it is in LA, and for good reason. So that's what I kind of like about gaming in LA, is that you are running with sort of the top of the top, and it's just super competitive. But if you are mildly successful or really successful, that success counts for so much more because of the dynamics of this particular sexual marketplace out here in this city. So just to recap everything, you want to make sure that you are taking into consideration the underlying culture of California and Los Angeles, the fact that you've got so many people that are not from here, so they don't really have a strong sense of community or that hometown pride sort of feel. And also make sure that you leverage your knowledge of red pill awareness, so that way you can see how the mechanics are going to play out, and all you're seeing is that it's playing out on a much bigger scale. So there's plenty of opportunity for you to operate and for you to find success. And you also can be the smart one that outsmarts everyone and is successful in that endeavor. Next, you also want to make sure that you are working on things like networking, logistics, fostering multiple options, keeping an after party in your back pocket, and also fostering that sense of mystery about yourself. And that's really going to help you go far, and it will help you crush it anywhere else, especially outside of LA, especially with, either the girl next door or the Victoria's Secret model. LA is a really fantastic place to go in, test your chops, and come out the other side ready to go. So for those of you that live here, hopefully this will help you out with refining your own game and with getting that success that you're looking for. For those of you guys that are visiting LA or going to visit LA, this is going to be some good background for you guys to keep in the back of your minds when you're coming out here, so you know exactly what you're up against and how you can use it to your advantage. So that's all that I have for this episode. I want to greatly thank everyone for tuning in, and I want to thank all you who have subscribed and have been following the podcast. It's been cool to see it grow. I've got some really cool, really fun people on the interview docket coming up here soon. So I'm very excited to share those conversations with you. And as always, go out, make the most out of life, get paid, get laid, and have a lot of fun doing it. All right, everybody, this is Alpha Jedi signing off here. I'll see you on the next podcast episode.